to use this stupid weapon. I think universally, the idea of weapon skills was just a totally terrible idea and something everybody hated. However, I'm sure there's a subsection of WoW who will tell you that it was just another step in the process of making this game way too easy. And there's, if you get into WoW and you're sort of a newer player, you haven't really been following the game, you'll notice that there's a constant battle, it seems, in this game between making the game accessible to casual players, that is, players that don't want to spend 45 hours a week, 50 hours a week playing World of Warcraft, and the players who do want to spend that time, and they do want the game to be challenging enough. And that is sort of a constant. I mean, I think dialogue might be a little bit too erudite of a word to refer to World of Warcraft. It probably isn't much of a dialogue. It's sort of, two opposites just going at each other and yelling. The casual players are usually the ones who win out from it, because I think for the most part they don't engage in the forum wars and all those kinds of things as much as the super expert players who are willing to spend that time. I'm sort of indifferent. I mean, it's Blizzard's game. They're gonna take it whatever direction they're gonna take it, and me yelling until my face is hoarse on the forums about how I don't like the new talent system, I don't think is gonna change anything. I think Blizzard has a direction, and it's a direction they're just gonna go. And this being the most popular MMO on the planet and with the largest user base on the planet, I can imagine why they do that. Because in some ways they know what they're doing. I mean, I have yet to play a title from Blizzard which I didn't love and didn't play obsessively. Starting off with Warcraft, orcs versus humans, all the way up to contemporary, which StarCraft 2, which is awesome. I don't really like anything other than the custom maps, but the game is still awesome. So here's our named guy that we need. Guy that we're supposed to hunt down. So we're gonna kill him. You can see a little exclamation point. Now if we had an interrupt, that is our ability to called Pummel, we could stop him from casting his magic on us, and then he couldn't proceed to do damage. But since we don't, we can't. So we'll go to the next skull, which is over here, which is Nissa. And Nissa is there. So we'll kill this rattle cage soldier as fast as we can burn him down, and Nissa's gonna shoot us with her, I think they're called like Geist Bolt or something like that, I don't remember. Geist Bolt. I think I've been playing too much Magic. Banshee Whale. Yeah, Geist. I've been playing too much Magic the Gathering. Well, I don't know that there is such a thing as... How did she do this? I don't know that there's such a thing as too much Magic the Gathering, but anyway. As a true Magic addict would tell you. Shudding. Alright, so we got our level 10. And we got some new abilities that we can train. One of those is a new stance to go along with our battle stance. We got a defensive stance, which reduces the damage we take by 10% and significantly increase our threat generation. And our threat generation is basically how much a monster wants to attack us. So one of the true functions of World of Warcraft is the ability for a warrior to hold aggro, which is the monster's attention. So while in defensive stance, it's a really good stance if we're trying to get a monster to beat on us and not run off and beat on all the squishy guys, since we are wearing fairly heavy armor. And that's essentially the foundation of one of the three Holy Trinity in World of Warcraft that makes up the triangle, which is you have tanking, which is how warriors and other tank classes hold a monster's attention so that they beat on the heavily armored target. You have healers who make sure that the tanks don't die. And then you have DPS, or damage per second, and that is the things that kill the monster, because usually tanks don't do very much damage. That's changed recently. So we're going to hit N. That's going to bring up this new talent tree, which will ask us to select a specialization, and I'm going to go through these. as basically as possible. There's basically three options for every class, and each option has its own flavor and its own mechanical feel. Arms for a warrior is, I mean, they give a description, and you can read that. But the core ability is Mortal Strike, which essentially does a certain percent of our weapon damage to the opponent. It replaces our strike ability, and it's very, very strong. We get two-handed weapon specialization, which gives us a 12% bonus in our two-handed damage output. You'll notice that will actually stack with this 5%. It's multiplicative, so to calculate our damage, you go like 12 or 0.12. I think it goes 0.12 times 0.05 bracket times, our damage. But I'm not 100% sure about that one. I think that's how that goes. The math sometimes gets away from me. The bed mass anyway. And then the third ability, which is anger management, and anger management generates additional rage from our attacks and passively. And anger management is a great skill when you have a lot of abilities. Not so much when you, like us, don't have very many, because if you've been watching, our rage bar is actually usually more full than we can spend it. Fury, on the other hand, is quite a bit more mechanically different from arms, because Fury's attacks are based off of raw attack power, which is Bloodthirst, which actually costs, wow, they all cost 20 rage. Oh yeah, I remember that. And Bloodthirst continues on with our sort of our vampire-esque feel, the Halloween sort of. We don't glitter, and we don't get to drive sweet cars and fall in love with Bella. But what we do is steal life from our enemy, and it restores our life. And the life gain off of Victory Rush, the life gain off Bloodthirst, is actually not irrelevant. While leveling, it actually is quite helpful, and especially with Bloodthirst, because you're hitting so often with your faster but less damaging weapons. The Bloodthirst healing actually isn't totally irrelevant, but it won't replace a priest or a paladin or a shaman or a druid. The sort of self-healing of a warrior, even with bandages, can never replace a healing class. They're just way too specialized at what they do. We get, instead of two-handed, we get the dual-wield specialization, which allows us to equip weapons in our offhand and increases our physical damage output by 5%, and raises the damage of our offhand attacks by 25%. So it stacks with battle stance. Fury actually has its own stance called Berserker stance, but we don't have that right now, and I don't think we'll get it within the context of this Let's Play. But what this does is it allows our two weapons that we're wielding, which come with a big penalty, which I'll explain later, to compete with the mighty damage of the two-handed output of arms. This is, obviously I'm talking while leveling. When you get to level 85, the damage potential of these two trees changes quite a bit, and is very dependent on what your equipment looks like. The third ability is Precision, which increases your chance to hit with your weapons by 3% and increases your auto attack damage, that's our white swing, right, not our abilities, by 40%. And Precision is really important because when you equip two weapons, right, when we have one weapon in our main hand and one weapon in our offhand, so like this, I don't think I have another weapon, but anyway, we have two swords. Just pretend we have another sword in there. Anyway, we can't do a wield right now. Of course. We actually, our chance to miss, which is right here, goes from 5% on a level 10 mob to 25% on a level 10 mob, which is a huge jump. But that's how they balance it, and how they've seen fit to balance dual wield versus two-hand. Some classes don't have the option; they have to dual wield. The rogue is a great example of that. And that 3% chance to hit actually really helps us out, because even though our hit chance, our miss chance goes down to 25% miss chance, our yellow attacks, that is our special abilities, still retain the hit chance we have now with our two-handed weapon. They don't change. It's just our white swings. So that 3% hit is actually, it actually increases our chance to hit with all our nice abilities more than going into arms. And this is our hit chance is a statistic that we can increase with items. And these are essentially the two trees that I would recommend you go for leveling. There are protection warriors who level. I've never done it, and I've also never wanted to. Protection is much better for finding groups. You will find dungeon groups much faster. I have to sneeze. Sorry about that. Protection warriors usually find dungeon groups much faster because they're much stronger. And they can take more damage, but they're not as good at killing monsters as fast as Fury and Arms. And while you're leveling, that's really what you care about. You eventually will unlock the ability to have a second talent specialization that you can change between, and usually you want to go some function of Fury protection or Arms protection, right? So you have one of these two for leveling, and then you have protection for when you want to go into the dungeons and battle with the evil monsters. When you go into a dungeon, the monsters are substantially more challenging. They're called elites. They have that nice gold symbol, gold dragon symbol around their head, and they have higher hit points, they do more damage, and they represent a much higher threat to your group. In fact, they're probably 5 times as difficult as a regular monster. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click Fury, but I want to turn on one setting first, and I'm going to show you guys how I do this. You go to interface, and I think we go to display, because we're looking for preview talent changes. No, it might be buffs and debuffs. I'm sorry, just bear with me. I have to find the preview talent change. I'm not 100% sure where it is. Names, action bars. It might be in controls, maybe. No. I'm not finding it. Did I miss it? Display aggro warning, never. That's just a setting that needs to be turned off. Don't pay it any mind right now. Detailed information, play aggro, sunshine. Objectives. Wider objectives tracker. So that's what that does if you don't like your quest being squished. I like. This is where you can turn on all your automatic quest stuff. I'm really bad. I should have had this done beforehand. Okay, well, either they moved it or I'm stupid. And before this loading screen, beginner tooltips, colorblind mode. Detect World of Warcraft gaming mouse, click to move, mouse sensitivity controls. Alright, well, I can't find it, so I'll just bite the bullet. So we'll click Fury. And there's each talent tree is built into tiers, so you got tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and each one has a requirement. So for example, the final one requires us to have 30 points into Fury, which requires us to be like level 63 or 66 or something like that. So each one of these has requirements, and you can see these arrows. I don't know if that's going to be that great on YouTube, but you should be able to see it. So one of the requirements for this talent is that we have this talent, and this talent requires that talent, and this talent requires that talent. I'm not going to go through the whole tree, mostly because I think it'll just get really confusing, but the important part of the Fury tree to remember is that what we want to do is increase our damage output just straight across the board as much as we can, and these are the sort of the tier 1 arms, and you can see one of the reasons why I didn't want to choose the tier 1 arms is this talent increases our rage generated by charge, which we don't need because we can't spend our rage. This talent increases the amount of healing we do to ourselves, so healing caused by victory rush and bloodthirst, things like that. And this one increases the damage done by mortal strike. There's only one damage ability in tier 1